Hey, it's Katrina from An Addict Speaks. I hope everybody's having a good Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I used to hate when somebody would say that to me, happy Monday. I'm like, happy Monday? I'm leaving my kids to go work 10-hour day with strangers and then come back, ride back for 2 hours in a box with strangers surrounding me, hating them and hating life. Yeah, happy Monday. I don't think so. But the truth is, you know what, it could always be worse. So yes, happy Monday. And I know firsthand. So I was reviewing video. I told you I wanted to keep these spontaneous, and I do. I want to keep them spontaneous and authentic. But I was reviewing video the other day, and I did notice that I wasn't completing my thoughts always. And part of the problem, or part of the reason for that, was because I was told that videos need to be short and sweet. And also I have a problem with focus. And but I realized if I'm not completing my thoughts, I'm not really, why am I doing these to begin with? So if you can't watch for that extra minute, then maybe, maybe I'm not the girl, the person you want to be listening to anyway. And I also wanted to touch on one thing else. The other day I did put out a video and I mentioned that no one's better than anyone else. And that is true. No one's born better than anyone else. But I do think the act of trying to become a better person does make you better in that sense to those who have no interest in becoming better. And as such, when you run into a situation like that, sometimes you need to cut the negative from your life. If someone is, putting down what you try to do, or you trying to improve on yourself, or making it difficult for you to do that, they're not, or it could be a situation, whatever it is, you are better than that. You need to move forward. And that's just my belief, and I'm not God, but it would be between them and God, but not between me and them. So I did say I was going to touch on the subject of cartels, Kingpin, that sort of thing. And believe it or not, there was a time when law enforcement actually called me a Kingpin. They were going to leverage Kingpin charges against me. And the motivation for that was very complex, and I can never get into all the details right now. But as a person who was paying for my own prescriptions, I was often, selling them or giving them to other people when they needed, or selling them so that I could pay for my own prescriptions. And at one point, very sadly and very embarrassingly, and this is the reason I haven't talked about it very much, because I'm very embarrassed. There is nothing flattering, nothing to be proud of, nothing, okay, about doing that. People could have died. My daughter died, not as a direct result of that. Someone else's actions, who let her die. He let her die. They waited a long time before they called 911, and even when they did, they didn't want to give her resuscitation because whatever his issues were. And I don't care what they say, or how angry they want to get, or what they want to threaten me with. That's the truth as I know it. And yet, I know I've heard the defense of, well, they were addicts themselves. They don't want to call law enforcement because of fear of being in trouble or whatever. And I understand that as well, and they could change the laws to reflect that. That'd be great. But I do think they also need to change the laws to suggest that if you don't call 911 or try to get someone help, that you be prosecuted at that point, because that's a human life. And I'm very sorry that you're a little worried that you might have to answer a few questions. But even at the height of my addiction, that was the last thing that I would absolutely have gotten someone help. So there is that issue. Now, when it comes to addicts within the same circle, providing drugs or pills for others in their same circle, that is common, and that's what happens, and that's just the truth. And I know that the new trend is to charge them with murder charges or manslaughter charges if someone dies within their circle and they provided the drug. The problem I have with that is that it doesn't get at the heart of the problem, okay? You have cartels who do not care. They don't use these drugs themselves. They are selling, they're sending this into our country. This is China, this is Mexico, unfortunately, sending this into our country, with some of them with the ill intent of actually killing our citizens, killing our kids, killing our parents, okay? So, and they're doing it for the number one reason is for profit. Number two, because they don't like us. So when they're doing this, I'm not saying prescription drugs count in this, but you do have irresponsible prescribers who are not doctors themselves, who are buying up these clinics and these facilities, and they are pushing these drugs on people and telling them that they're safe, and they're not even licensed to prescribe this kind of medicine. So, okay, that's fine if you want to go get the kid down the street who gave it to another kid, a 19-year-old who gives it to a 23-year-old who happens to die, and then you want to send him to prison as his punishment because your child died. And I understand the anger and the pain behind that. I do. I really do, because of what happened with my case with my daughter. The thing is, though, I don't know that it solves the problem, because when you're in the middle of your addiction, you know, I'm not saying there shouldn't be any consequence. Now, that is wrong. There should be a consequence. But to the extent of murder, I don't know how it's not going to deter anything, I'll assure you of that. And I know you believe it will. And I'm going to sit here on record and say that I'm guaranteeing it will not. When I was in the middle of my addiction, I was trying, when I'm providing the drugs for someone else, I'm thinking I'm giving them relief, just as I would want relief. I'm doing it because if I run out, I need relief too. So it's what you do within your circle. No one that I knew of ever wanted anyone to die, and they certainly didn't want to hurt anyone. They actually thought, in your addiction, your brain tells you you're helping someone else. Sick and sad, but that's what it's telling you. Now, as things progressed, because I felt such a lack of control in my own life, I almost became high off the power that I had this stuff, this relief for people. I know it sounds sick and sad, and I am embarrassed. That's why I don't talk about it, because it's something I never want to glamorize. There is nothing to be proud of, okay? Nothing. But that's how, to the extent it got. And I even realized in the middle of my addiction, Katrina, you hated these people that would sell this stuff, and you're doing it yourself. I can't explain it. So when they talk about it being a disease, that's where I'm talking about where I believe it's a disease, because it does hijack the brain in a way that I can't even begin to describe. How it just told me things, and I bought it. And that's why I believe in mandatory rehab. And I know everyone says, well, you have to want help. Yeah, you do, but you have to let the dust settle. And, you know, whether it comes to Suboxone, Subutex, or whatever, if it had come out back, was available back then for myself and for my daughter, God only knows. I know I'd have been in a better place, and I'm pretty sure she'd still be here. She didn't get around to it. But you got to clear the clouds, right? You got to clear the brain. You got to get all that crap out of you. And if it takes a year or whatever, then you have to teach new strategies, new coping, whatever. Then you need to get them around new people, places, and things, okay? And if they still fail after all of these things in place, but if you can provide it financially for imprisonment, probation, parole, etc., then you can do it for long-term treatment. So I'm not saying that we're not empowered and that we're victims and we have no control, blah, blah. I'm actually saying the opposite. We do have control. But when you are actively on those drugs, you don't see any other way out. So that is why I say, lock up your loved one if you have to, because right now that's all we have available to us. But that's not the ideal solution. But it's the solution. It beats burying them, pissing them off, burying them, inconveniencing them, burying them. I mean, it should be an easy answer. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that, and it's something that's pretty embarrassing for me to admit, and I don't get to talk a lot about it. But I would just say that I don't always think that the intent is negative, especially when you're talking amongst friends and other addicts. And as I said, we are talking about a completely different issue with cartels and actual bigger level drug dealers or these clinics or whatever. Because I guarantee you, they only want the money. They do not care if you live or die. And, these people that let my daughter die, they went on and they had these things happen before. And there's some people that are soulless, and then there's some people that are caught in the middle of their addiction. And therein lies the problem, knowing which is which. So it's a complex problem. I'll give it to you there. And I don't know the answers, but those were just my thoughts. Anyway, everybody have a great night, and thank you for listening. And I'll have a great week, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks.